And really quick, let's go back, because I'm a sales guy by trade, right? And one of the things we deal with in the world of sales is objections, right? And I wrote down here 2 objections that I'm almost guaranteed you've been hit with before. And I like to pose them first, because let's get those objections out of the way. Let's not overcome the objections, Mike. Let's block them entirely, right? So here are 2 objections I got for you. Number 1, but Mike, this just sounds like a conspiracy. It just sounds like, you're making stuff up. Like, they're poisoning our air. They're poisoning our water. Our government would never do that to us. Number 1. Number 2, well, Mike, over the past 50, 60, 70 years, ever since the advent of big pharma, we've seen people's life expectancies increase. Why are people living longer if we're not healthier? Those are my 2 objections for you. Hit us with it.
So can I do number 2 first?
Of course.
America consumes more pharmaceuticals than any developed country in the world. We're the most heavily vaccinated country in the entire world. So if vaccines are safe and effective, and pharmaceuticals help us to live longer and help with these debilitating diseases, eyeballs, we would be number 1, right? Should we be number 1 in life expectancy if pharmaceutical works?
You'd think.
Yeah. Are we top 10?
I think we're 37?
We're like in the 60s, 50s and 60s. Yeah. American life expectancy is we're 10 years behind places like South Korea, Sweden, Japan. 10 years. You're talking a decade, right? 3,000 plus days. They're living longer than us. Okay. And if you don't understand, for question number 1, that you can't go to grandma's house and pull out her Polaroid pictures from the 70s, anybody in America, show me a contrail that blocks out the sun. If you want to debunk me, go to grandma's house, mike@airwaterhealing.com, email me the picture of the contrail that persisted across the entire continent, or the entire state, or the entire city where grandma lived, and then show me a picture 4 hours later where I can no longer see the sun. Because when I grew up, I remember as a child watching the contrails that would go right past the planes, and then they would dissipate just like little ice crystals melting, not big X's all across. And the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So when you start seeing a plane go like this, what are you doing, buddy? Why are you zigzagging? What's going on? And again, it goes back to I had a great friend of mine that, had said to me, he goes, if the government cared, he goes, if the government cared about us, they wouldn't put things that they're injecting into children that you would be put in jail if you were feeding them to your child in a spoon.
That's what we call a mic drop in our industry, Mike. Now, really quick, I want to just stick on this for a second, because this is the stuff, right? I'm not discounting what you guys are doing at Airwater Healing, but rather it's not even so much the solution you're bringing to the table today that we have to really promote. We have to kind of reset the starting off point. And it was a lot more difficult, I think, if you're to go like 2014 to 2024, right? If you were to try to go out and convince your average everyday person that, like, hey, the government's literally poisoning you. And you just look across, whether it's the stuff they're putting in our water, the stuff that they're putting in our air, the stuff they're putting in our food, like, you'd probably get a lot of like, okay, sounds good, Sparky. Let me know when you're out of the institution, right? But then we all went through this one thing together, COVID. Right. And we got to see firsthand the number of the so-called experts, the number of folks who were supposed to be the standard bearers of public health, just downright lying to our faces. And not just lying to our faces, Mike. And this is the bigger part too. It was part of an overarching narrative that you couldn't be caught telling the truth, because as soon as one person spoke the truth, that was, the inevitable little, finger that pushes over the first domino that then goes, brrr, and it goes down the domino chain, and all of a sudden it hits the big house of cards, right? You couldn't do that. So you have folks going and testifying before Congress, committing perjury, folks like Anthony Fauci, who I just learned, and you learned this morning, will no longer be, go ahead, speak your truth.
Pardoned.
Pardoned. That's right. Yeah, pardoned. He's no longer going to be able to be held to account for lying to Congress, for lying to Americans where the origin of COVID came from, and also our role in the origins of COVID. Did we help fund this? Probably. That's what it looks like. You have him. You have the head of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky. You have Dr. Levine, right? The arbiter of all things truth, when they themselves can't determine what gender they are.